Hey guys, I wanted to talk a little bit about oil gallery plugs. So these oil gallery plugs on the common rails, even on the 12 valves, you need to, when you're doing engine work, if you're pulling these out and doing a bunch of stuff, boring, honing, even if you're doing it in your garage at home, make sure you pull these plugs out. Now on a 12 valve, there's only two, one on this side, one on the other side, and on a common rail, there is two of them. So there's two of them on the back. So the reason I wanted to talk about this is this engine came from a customer. He sent it back as a core. It burnt up a piston, and the reason it burnt up a piston had nothing to do with the oil gallery plug, but it did have main problems. So I wanted to talk about this because this main this main bearing had also chewed the crankshaft up, and this bearing was screwed up. And the reason for it was actually the oil gallery plug. What they had done, the last time this was rebuilt by the company I won't name, they paint their engines this color. I don't know what they were doing, to be totally honest with you. So they double stacked this in the hole, and then they also had two jammed in there sideways. So I don't know what they were doing. But if you double stack these oil plugs, or use a brass plug that's too thick, you have to be very careful, because if you're not careful, what happens is, see that oil hole right there, and you can see that ridge. If you cover that oil hole over, what happens is this bearing, that's how this bearing in the number one main is oiled. And then also this cam bearing, or your cam bearing, I should say, gets its oil from this oil gallery, gets transferred around. So if you double stack plugs there, because of the thickness of these plugs, and these are the plugs you're supposed to use, these plugs, if you double stack them, you will cover that hole over. If you don't cover it over completely, you'll cover it partly over. We've seen this one was like 99% covered over. So you want to be careful. If I can get the, there we go. If I get the light back over it, you want to be very careful that you make sure you don't impede that hole. So when we put them in, we use retaining compound. I've showed it before. We use retaining compound on them, and then we stake them so they don't come out. I've never had one fall out before. They could fall out, I suppose, but I've never had one come out before. This one is actually under the timing case. So if it did come out, other than oil pressure problem, you would know. Same with on the back. Well, you would know on the back because you would have a leak, but the timing case does cover, or sorry, the bell housing does cover it, engine bell housing, or engine adapter, whatever you want to call it. But also, and when you're rebuilding, make sure you take them out, because you will get a bunch of garbage underneath there. You will get sludge, machining debris. If you had bearing failure or any of that type of stuff, you will have a bunch of garbage in there. So I always recommend to replace these. They are an 11/16 plug is what we use. That's the part number, a Pioneer part number. And then if you buy a frost plug kit, all the 12 valves will come with it. I don't know if these ones do or not. I can't remember. We buy them in bulk, so I'm not just really 100% sure off the top of my head. But just to let you guys know, make sure that you pull these out. Don't double stack them. And I would also check. You can check this. All you got to do is stick a screwdriver in there and see, or a screwdriver when you have it off, or a piece of wire to make sure that it goes down. If you're not double stacking, you don't have to worry. And make sure you take them out. It's not rocket science. If you put them in there, don't leave them in there. That's stupid. Whoever did that was stupid. So anyways, like, subscribe, hit me down in the comments, and remember, it's not rocket science.